Hey associates, this right along is a speed creation of me doing that prototype descriptions assignment. And so I did use Google Docs for this. Really is just a lot of words, lots of typing. So Google Docs works perfectly for it. Words and just a few like visuals, images inserted. This is going to be powerful enough. And so I'm starting out, right, I have just adding that basic information and kind of getting my initial layout started, all of those key headings that go into a spec sheet for any type of kind of product or development process. Now I am using some work I had already completed with the Google Grow certificate, so definitely can work smarter, not necessarily harder on this assignment, and use any like products or like new stuff that you've created in other classes and write up this formal just spec sheet documentation for it. And so that's what I'm copying over. I had to basically develop and design a new app or like an extension on an app, and with the Google certificate, it's more of a portfolio presentation with all the info. So I'm just converting it over to this different medium genre that is just a written just development spec sheet, reference for the prototype that I'm developing. So I'm going through looking for my user journey kind of stuff, like what is the prototype, what is the app going to do, thinking about my needs, and needs depend on the market, the audience. So as you're coming up with your new prototype and describing its value and what it actually is going to do, its functions and features, you need to connect it and describe it in context with what values you think people need. I did have to do like wireframes and mock-ups with the Google certificate, so I'm just snipping those right in there. I used Figma to make those wireframes and mock-ups, so that's a good tool that you might use if you wanted to do that. I also had to do some usability studies on my mock-up, and so just all that information I'm just dropping into here since I already did all of that work. I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of reuse it in this new medium. So as you're planning and creating your prototype, you also need to make some sort of like renderings, visuals, make sure people really understand what it is that you are inventing or describing. So for my app, some of the kind of new features and why I have those review pages is really where the difference is, born out of adjustments that I wish movie theater apps had, which is basically an easier rating system that's just like simpler, and the ability to see like where like kids seats, where have youth tickets been sold, that kind of stuff. Here I am realizing I have some stuff in like maybe a different order, wrong order, but I'm still in the stage of just collecting all this info, right? I know I have everything I need to write a good description. I just didn't necessarily have like the order since it is a different medium. So that's what I was spending all that kind of early time working on there. Whenever you want to insert a line, you can kind of do that directly from the insert tab, which is kind of nice, and just doing some work to play with my headings, tagging them, H1, H2, always use the official tags so that way, it shows up in navigation tools as well as screen readers need to have the actual tag on there. And so I definitely find it nice to just get my content in sometimes and then go and build out these sections some more. And so here I realized, I don't think that belongs to like the overview. That would be better to start with the product overview. And so just rereading, kind of editing a speed build like this honestly is pretty boring, because it's really just me typing a lot and pausing to read and type a lot. There isn't, of course, a lot for you to see. Here I'm writing my purpose statement. Everything, of course, has to have a purpose statement. So what does this do? This document captures the technical specifications of an app to aid in my prototype development. And then, now you know exactly what my document is going to do. So always provide that promise so the reader knows why they're about to invest any amount of their time in the thing that you have created in the content. And then I'm kind of giving a little roadmap of what all the sections are going to entail. Yeah, just kind of like thinking about the content, going back through all of my sort of notes, and user research kind of information. Again, here I just realized, oh, you know what, I had too much in my opening intro. Maybe I should actually put it here. What is going to be a better representation of the overview, which definitely goes into, right, the type of users that and sort of problems with that user group that led me to, you know, making this kind of new app experience. And I'm just go ahead and overviewing and explaining that in my overall introduction, and just setting up like big picture, the value of what this prototype, this thing that I'm describing that we should develop, is all about. Then the product overview, right, it's like a summary. So your initial kind of introduction is, right, an overview to the document. The product overview section is the intro overview to your product, your prototype, your thing that you are describing and want basically people to create. And so that definitely can get into things like, what is the problem that your product is going to solve, right? And who are the people? It's kind of the campsite, context, audience, message, and product that it is you're making. So all those elements are good for the product overview, and can kind of go in there. And I decided to like adjust it into a better summary kind of information. So really it would just be like a couple paragraphs, and then put the more detailed, like, okay, I already introduced, here's the type of people that would use this app and why those type of people need the app, to then set up the key features, the specific, here are the pain points, right? Here are the needs, and here are, right, the basically 2-3 features that address those needs. So as you're coming up with your new kind of prototype and your new design, you can also, you don't have to like completely invent something brand new, but do come up with, right, a novel, like a new extension, expansion on something that exists based on a need that you see in the market. So if you're choosing to do this project just because you have like kind of an actual idea and you want to, you know, play around with your like innovative spirit. Again, just like kind of clipping a lot of stuff, honestly, is being a little bit, I guess you call it lazy, but also it's like, you know, it's designed, it's good, it's fine. Let me just, you know, drop that in there, which is sometimes how things work, right, at work. Here, I don't think I end up keeping the table because it's just so small that it's just like, doesn't really make sense, and I would have had to recreate it. So I'm sort of pondering what I want to do about that instead, and sort of thinking, well, maybe I should just describe, right, the user journey a lot better, which is really the written description of what is in that table, but just in obviously a faster, easier to read, like summary way, just because that table is so dense. And so yeah, I'm just, you know, kind of expanding. Hey, I found these journeys and struggles along the journey for the user. Here's kind of the personas that have helped me test it. That is very much a UX thing when we are developing new kind of prototypes for apps. Of course, focus on user experience. Depending on your field, your discipline, you know, you might focus more on just like a target market, could be like the language, or key consumer, you know, key user. But all of those basically come down to the same idea of describe who would find this invention, this prototype, this new product valuable. Why would they find it valuable? What are you doing? What features exist that your target market, your target user, your persona would benefit from? Even though this is a very text-heavy document, naturally, notice I still have, right, bullet points and breaking up the section with bolding, headings, different sizes of paragraphs, you know, based on those topic sentences, and then going through and adding these visuals. So, you know, what picture is worth 1,000 words, and so giving people that kind of image. In Google Docs as well as Word, whenever you insert those images, you will have to kind of deal with and think about the alignment settings. And so usually doing something like an overwrite, like send in front of text, or tight allows you to manipulate and drag it around. And so that's just what I was doing, kind of adjusting those elements so it could have that nice sort of side-by-side view. All right, so now that all my features I think are done, I'm going to get into some of the actual spec stuff. Again, will look a little bit different. Oh yeah, cool, I see. So I remember now. So now I am just putting the actual picture worth 1,000 words again. Here is the wireframe of my new feature, and I am describing what this novel feature is going to do. So I spent that time setting up who my users are and their needs, so that way when I tell you, and here's the first feature, or you already have that context of why it's a feature. And I mean, it's just, you just have to describe it. Simple as that. Tell people what it does, how it helps the need, any of the other background, and if it's relevant, visuals that may help out. And then my second novel feature is kind of repeating that process with the idea of these seat tags. And I'm kind of talking through here how my app is different and how it is building in this new way, which is that, existing systems only basically show taken, available, maybe one that's like, wheelchair accessible or something, but that's the only data you get. And so I'm saying my new app will tell you this was a youth ticket, right, that got sold. So going into it, if you're going to be sitting next to like kids specifically, so that way you can enjoy your movie or just be prepared. Okay, so now I'm getting into the technical specifications. This section will change the most depending on your product as well as your background. So since I am in more the UX side, talking about the design and features of an app, right, I am saying, okay, well, it would be available on these versions, and I had to look up what are even the versions of Android and iOS that we're on right now, and so I just grabbed that info. And I'm just gonna say, like, this really is just gonna be a mobile app though, because who gets on the computer to buy tickets? Like, it's, we have to have it available, but this, the features of my app, and it being also, a ticketing app, definitely is going to be made with mobile first in mind. Other things about my technical specs, so I'm taking my kind of what that back-end user journey and decision tree is going to look like, which of course would be important for then I'd give it to the devs to be like, here's all the big picture decisions in the journey that we need to account for, and then they could build their very, very specific spec sheets on exactly how and what and where and why they would build the movie list page, the purchase page, right, all these different elements. I'm not a coder, I'm not a dev, so I can't write the spec sheet for that, but if you are in those spaces, then it's a great time to really practice, right, describing in the back end as much as you can. Basically just, describe it to your role and your level. I described the UX, the user experience in the front end, because that is my role. And right, the coders would write a detailed one about the code and whatnot. Okay, so now I am using Gemini as an intern. Again, I always like to test it out, see what it's up to, and thought maybe it could write some sort of like little conclusion or next steps for me, but it wasn't really good, which I find happens a lot. So I actually took what Gemini wrote and then ran it through Grammarly and see if it could like make a better version. And I was kind of rereading through and adjusting, kind of editing, updating the formatting. Of course, you're gonna copy it from your intern, make sure it looks cohesive as well, or else it's like, what are you doing? You're just being lazy. And I'm just, enhancing with some specific content of my own. At their core, the interns don't know exactly what you are trying or what you want to write, so they are always a great foundation, especially if you feel a little bit stuck. They're so good at things like summaries, so definitely you could use it to help with your final conclusions. But then always go back and add information so it's true to your voice and your ideas and your thoughts. So I'm honestly just brainstorming, okay, if I were to give this spec sheet to somebody to develop, what things would need to happen next. Alright, so this last thing that I was doing is adding a break. So insert break, section break, which allows me to just change that little section area to be different. I wanted it to be landscape so I could have my two higher fidelity kind of mock-ups side by side, resizing them a little bit so they fit on one page, but the section breaks is how I have vertical, you know, or portrait, and then landscape, and then the next section can go back to that portrait look. You know, running, of course, grammar checkers, updating any of that, doing some last little tweaks, and manipulations, making sure that, you know, just my pages, last proof, looks the way I want it to. Went ahead and put that in the header just to give myself a little bit more space. And then, you know, you don't want to have just a bullet point without any context, especially at the top of a page. So just added that little sentence there, renamed it, and that is my product prototype spec sheet done. That, you know, didn't take me very long, like 30 minutes basically, but I did of course have a ton of the ideas and the research already completed because of that Google Grow certificate. So this project is really good if you already have an idea, maybe something from another class in mind, or else, you know, definitely come up with your great invention, your next new idea right off the bat. All right, thanks associates, vibes.